Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Afternoon in Winnipeg. I don't know where you are. Welcome to Demystifying Custom Learning Libraries with Brayden Anderson. Just to introduce myself, I'm Susan Harrell. I'm the Director of Sales Enablement here at Neovation. And Neovation, for those of you who may not know us, is a full-service e-learning services company. We provide e-learning platforms for training and microlearning. We have a custom learning division. We provide consulting and curriculum services, and all of this is supported by what our clients tell us is the most responsive customer success team in the business. So we're here today to give you a big picture on how content libraries work and what you need to know to make your best choices and decisions. And if we have time at the end, excuse me, allergies. If we have time at the end, we might actually even be able to show you under the hood of the three main course providers that we work with. But all of this leads me to introduce our friend Brayden Anderson, um, who will be presenting today. He is the Senior Sales Director here at Neovation, and he is what I like to call our content enthusiast. I love hearing him talk to our clients and prospects about what content libraries can do for them. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. We will do questions and answers primarily at the end, but please use the chat feature to put your questions into the chat, and I will triage them and compile them. If there's something that I know is coming, I'll try to answer that in the chat, so you know that you've been seen. But we'll make sure that everybody has their questions answered at the end. There may be a few bigger questions that Brayden might have to take offline. So as we get started. Oh, yes, and at the very end, when you go to close the webinar session, there will be a 3-question survey. Please take the second to answer those questions because it helps us shape our future events. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, the fabulous Brayden Anderson. Brayden, over to you.
Thank you, Susan. That was quite the introduction. I appreciate you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And I'm excited to discuss a topic that we've noticed is really moving the needle in the way that organizations approach training and development today. And of course, that's e-learning content libraries. So over the next 45 minutes, wanted to explore what content libraries are at a high level, some of the key features and how they work, the benefits and practical considerations of libraries, the future trends, and then of course, how Neovation can help. So let's begin and take a look at how corporate training has evolved over time. If we go back a few decades, training was typically conducted in person through classrooms, workshops, seminars. We all remember these days well. And although effective, they were time intensive, costly, and difficult to scale, especially for larger, more geographically dispersed teams. And so as technology advanced over time, organizations began to adopt in-house e-learning development, which was a big leap forward because it allowed learners to access training remotely and on their own time, completed at their own pace. But did require significant resources, skilled instructional designers, specialized software, and things like this. And then blended learning the blended learning approach emerged as the next step, combining both in-person and online training, of course. So, this certainly provides much more flexibility, engagement, but resource demands, again, can be high and not as flexible as course libraries, for example. And that brings us to the era of e-learning content libraries. And so high level, they're pre-built, high quality courses covering a wide range of topics that make training scalable, cost effective, and available on demand. So it's been a game changer for many organizations, and they just solve the problem of being able to get content supported and deployed immediately. Now, when it comes to creating or sourcing e-learning content, we typically see 3 main approaches that organizations typically take. The first is the DIY approach. So if you have instructional designers or course developers on your team, you can build custom content with authoring tools tailored specifically to your learners, their roles, your organizational goals. And the great thing about DIY is you own the intellectual property. So you're able to manage any sort of updates to make sure that content is accurate, branding is accurate, and certainly a great approach, but it does require significant resources, expertise, and time. So if you have the resources and the bandwidth, this could be an amazing approach. With the second option being outsourcing an e-learning design firm such as Neovation to be able to help support your custom content as well. So this is another approach. Great choice if you have a critical course that needs to be done right, or maybe a high stakes internal course or client program, for example, or if you just need an extra set of hands. So maybe you have an in-house team, but you need some additional support meeting timeline objectives, or with some custom simulations or things like that. So much more custom, but again, can be a little bit more time intensive than pre-built content. And then finally, we have our plug and play libraries. So again, pre-built courses created by experts. And what's nice is that they are they're ready to use on demand, and they cover so many different topics and subtopics. And so the coverage is great. And so the customization, although the level of customization isn't the same as the other options, if you need content deployed quickly, you can get started on day one with content libraries. So each of these approach has its strengths, but e-learning libraries certainly stand out for their accessibility and versatility. So what is a content library? For those who may not know, at their core, they are pre-built online courses created by subject matter experts, carefully crafted and designed, that cover, again, a wide range of topics. So anything from soft skills like leadership, communication, management, to technical skills like Excel, cloud computing, IT, things like that. So whatever your organization needs, there's likely a course for it. And we'll get a little more granular on some additional topics as well as we go on. But what makes them so appealing is they're ready to go. And they're typically operate on a subscription model. So I like to use the Netflix or the Spotify example. You pay for access and you have more content than you could possibly consume in one sitting, but also likely more content than you could credibly build for the time and the price. And so some libraries, for example, you'll go straight directly to their website or their portal, and you take training there and you'll get your reporting there. Whereas others allow you to export those courses directly and then upload them directly into your own learning ecosystem, so that everything lives under one roof and you can report on them and all your other training initiatives as well. But I like to think of them as like a central directory. So you can go and browse, select, curate all the courses that work best for your organization. And you can do that all on your own. But if you do have more complex needs, so large groups of learners, many different roles, we always suggest either working directly with the content provider and or using leveraging your LMS rep like us, for example, who have partners with these libraries, understand the libraries, can help you curate and make the best decisions on content for your organization. So I wanted to frame that at a high level. What makes them truly impactful, though, is the scope of the libraries themselves. And so there's a couple of different providers and scope, but specialized providers, for example, these providers may offer dozens, up to 100 courses, for example, and they're typically libraries that are specific for industries or roles with very unique needs. So, for example, you might find a library that focuses on compliance regulations specific to a country, state, specialized market. Think of like energies and utilities, healthcare, manufacturing. And while the broader libraries do cover all these industries, these specialized providers would typically take it a step further and provide more specialized training to maintain specific accreditation, for example. So if you do need very specific accreditation, these could be a great provider or option for you. Let me just grab a drink of water. Other libraries offer hundreds to thousands to even tens of thousands of courses covering such a wide net of content across so many topics. So, well, you may not find a course on, nuclear leak testing, for example. These libraries do offer everything from broad and general courses like business skills and workplace safety, but do get more targeted as well. So it's not so generalized that you can't, they don't have specific training for specific industries. So hand washing, for example, you'd be able to find a hand washing course for food safety, and then a separate one for a chemical plant. So it does filter down and you can get some pretty targeted training. And then another key strength is that they offer ranges of skill levels. So you'll find courses designed for complete beginners as well as advanced level training for experienced learners. So you can build customized learning plans that guide learners through their development step by step. And just a great way to be able to progress learners through training in a logical way, without having to wait for new custom courses to be developed and deployed. And let's not forget about language options. There's many providers out there that specialized in specific languages, so might be more of a smaller library. But others offer more options to support your English, French, and Spanish, for example. And then some of our partners have a wide range of courses on 50 plus languages. So really great for global organizations and yeah, lots of options out there in terms of language. But again, the sheer variety is often an important reminder as to, the why it's great to connect with the library the library rep or an LMS rep themselves to help you curate content, because lots of considerations. So with the wide range of content formats, you would be right to think that there are different pricing structures and models as well. So we typically see 3 different pricing models. Pay per course, which would be a good option if you're looking for specific courses rather than an entire library. So, the per course price may be more expensive, as it often reflects how these libraries compensate their SMEs, but could be less expensive overall if you're only needing a few specific courses for a small amount of learners. Next, and most common, we have that subscription model based on the number of learners. So by far the most common, you purchase a certain number of licenses, 1 for each learner, and each license gives that person unlimited access to the entire library. So if you have 1,000 learners, you'll need 1,000 licenses. But the beauty of this model is that once a learner has a license, you can enroll them into as many courses as you'd like without incurring additional costs. So once they have a license, you don't have to penny pinch or watch your license or anything like that. You can deploy as much training as possible. So super helpful. And then some providers offer more customized packages, which are less common, but incredibly useful for specific industry needs. So for instance, if you could find a manufacturing bundle or a healthcare training bundle for specific learners, or sorry, I'm getting notifications here. If you have like seasonal employees, for example, and you don't want to give them access to training throughout the entire year, you can bundle these packages together and just provide them a nice bundled customized package for the short term. And most of these learners, these providers, also offer tiered pricing. So usually the more packages, the more learners, the more courses you offer, the better deal you can get. So, when you first take a look at the training topics that content libraries offer, it can often feel a little overwhelming. And what we've noticed is that the key is often, well, of course, make sure that it lines up with your organizational goals and your learners. But we all often see it's helpful to start with the essentials like compliance or regulatory needs. So whether that's diversity and inclusion, anti-harassment, workplace safety, maybe industry specifics like regulations like HIPAA. This allows you to kind of set that baseline and establish that baseline for consistency and accountability across the organization. But some of the benefits is, when it comes to compliance, is they're consistent. When employees take the same course, you can be confident knowing that everyone is receiving the same foundational knowledge and best practices, regardless of their role or their department. And this is especially beneficial for things like compliance and safety, where gaps in training content might lead to serious risks or exposure, for example. So with a content library, that consistency is baked in. Then there's the compliance itself. Regulations change all the time, as we know. And so keeping training content up to date can feel like an endless task. So let the library take care of that. They have folks that make sure that regulations and everything is up to date. And so making sure that, leaning on them to make sure that those updates are done, you could always ensure that you're getting the most up-to-date content and your people are compliant. And then another advantage is credibility. Many libraries offer courses that are recognized by industry standards. So just add some legitimacy to your training program, and you can know that folks are taking content from an authoritative provider. Because we know it's not just about meeting compliance requirements, it's about reinforcing that trust and accountability with your team and your external stakeholders as well. And again, it's convenient. Most compliance related courses within libraries also often come with quizzes and assessments as well. So convenient in the fact that you can take them off, upload them to your LMS and deliver them, but also convenient that there's built-in assessment tools so that you can make sure that you're verifying progress, completion, and reporting on compliance. So that's how we typically suggest, starting curating your content. But from there, you can begin to layer more specialized skills by role or department. So for example, do you have managers or supervisors who could use leadership or communication training, or senior leaders who could benefit from a strategic decision-making course? We know that leadership often touches every department. But what about the tools that your employees are using every single day? Could they be more efficient with advanced Excel skills or better PowerPoint design? Or maybe you want to deliver Microsoft Teams or Google Workspace training to kind of enhance collaboration within the team. For your IT department, are they ahead of security expectations with proper training on cybersecurity or computing or software design, things along those lines. And for customer facing roles, is your team confident in negotiating skills or handling challenging conversations with clients? Could they be, could they benefit from more effective demos or presentations? And then one way we can support our teams as well is just in their personal and career development with things like time management, project management, or goal setting. So these are often a helpful backbone to successful organizations. And so when you take a step back and consider that, consider all these areas, it does become clear that training isn't a one size fits all solution. So every role, every department, every individual has unique needs. And so the power of a content library is really the ability to meet those needs with a diverse, flexible catalog of courses. And while addressing the unique needs of each role or department, of course, this is essential. The power lies with how it supports your employees' overall growth. So for starters, content libraries allow you to create diverse learning plans. So whether it's progressing learners from beginning to advanced level training, or maybe providing a specialized track for them to complete, they give learners just a more structured path to follow, and they can track their progress, and it empowers them and making growth feel more attainable and more purposeful. Another key advantage is the accessibility. So employees can learn anytime, anywhere, and this flexibility can be a game changer for busy schedules. So, empowering learners to be able to get training done, but get it done on their own time without disrupting their workflow or any of their personal commitments. It kind of puts the control back in their hands, if you will, and can be motivating for learners. It fosters a culture of continuous learning as well. And, we know that when training can become more and part of the day-to-day or the week-to-week rather than kind of a one-off event, it really helps learners stay engaged, and they see it more of an ongoing opportunity as opposed to training that needs to be done. So taking ownership of their own growth and kind of foster that culture of learning is another great way to support our employees. And speaking of ownership, offering elective learning options can be a great way to tap into employees' interests as well. So, we know that mandatory training covers the essentials, but allowing learners to also explore optional courses, whether that's for personal development of new skills, it can uncover real hidden potential, excuse me. So for instance, if an employee in operations might take an elective course in marketing, that may reveal an interest in future cross-departmental roles. Or personalized learning paths like these not only benefit the employee, but it gives really deep insights into kind of what they're interested in, and allows us a peek behind the curtain into what their ambitions might be or what they may be looking to improve on. And that diversity doesn't stop with the topics alone. They also come in a variety of formats and levels of interactivity. So you can tailor your experience to specific learner audiences. So some libraries do allow you to kind of curate different formats, while others may kind of fall into one specific delivery format. All depends on how they design their content. But one popular format is video lectures. And so think of like if you've ever taken a LinkedIn learning course, for example, kind of a talking head, but it's that expert presenter who delivers content in a straightforward and clear and concise way, and can often feel like a conversation with the subject matter expert, which is a great way for conveying information that's easy to follow. Then there's more interactive slide decks that let learners click through the content at their own pace. And this just allows material to be a little bit more digestible. And it's great for breaking more complex topics into more manageable pieces. For even more engaging and meaningful learning, animations and simulations are an excellent options. And they allow to break even more complex processes down. For instance, a simulation might walk a learner through troubleshooting a piece of equipment step by step, or allowing them to practice that within a risk-free environment. Another format you'll see is panel discussions. It's a little less common or popular, but these are essentially expert interviews, which often feature thought leaders and can be a great or often utilize and leverage for sparking new ideas or introducing learners to more innovative ideas. Gamification and gamified courses, we've heard this buzz for several years now, and this is leveraging things like game-based or gamification elements like points, badges, rewards to really boost engagement and challenge learners based on what they've learned. And so they're much more fun, motivating, and can be super helpful for competitive or goal-oriented type audiences. And then finally, we have virtual and augmented reality. So these are less common, as you would imagine, because they do require very specialized equipment and technology, but they provide a very immersive hands-on experience and just allows learners to explore different environments and make risk-free decisions, and is very engaging and very memorable. So we've talked about what libraries are, the pricing models, the overall coverage in terms of course topics and delivery formats. What does that mean? How does that translate into in terms of organizational impact? First and foremost, they provide a quick starting point. So once you've collected your courses, uploaded them to your LMS, your learners can dive in and start taking them immediately. Beyond speed, they help create smarter learning plans. So we touched on this, but instead of delivering training in a piecemeal way, you can curate and design clear, progressive learning plans that really avoid frustrating learners who already know the basics, for example. And because we know learners don't all start from the same place, it really helps address knowledge gaps head on. So say an assessment or a quiz, for example, shows a certain team member struggling with a specific skill. You can quickly close those gaps with targeted training and get everyone on the same page in terms of knowledge, skill, and competence. And because industries do not stand still, staying up to date and current is essential. So these libraries are constantly updating their content, and you can know that you're keeping up with the latest regulations, best practices. And again, especially in critical areas like compliance, where outdated training could lead to exposure, it's helpful to know that these are consistently being updated. And perhaps the most significant impact is on employees themselves. So, access to high quality training that builds confidence shows them that you're interested in their growth. And so when learners feel empowered, they're more likely to take on new challenges and explore additional areas of interest. So we discussed this a little bit, but being able to provide training related to the business, of course, there's going to be mandatory training or optional training. It's great to see if someone's taking training and interested in different roles, for example, but you could also provide courses that are non-business related. So think of things like nutrition or health and wellness or fitness or money management or mental health. And so if you can provide these elective courses, and then learners taking them, you can get some really deep insights into, what folks are interested in, or what folks on a personal level are struggling with or looking to improve. So we know that lack of training is often a leading cause of folks leaving an organization. So providing these learning opportunities is a great way to support them. And so beyond these advantages, libraries simply provide an excellent way to save time and money. Developing courses from scratch and repeating the same live training over and over, for example, can be time consuming. You can rely on ready deployed content instead if you have the right content courses. And of course, there are cost savings. So if you're building courses from scratch, you got to think about the salaries of the instructional designers, the cost of the authoring tools, the additional expenses like third-party voice actors for narration or translation. So building general knowledge or industry compliance courses takes time. And so if we can leverage the library for these specific courses and then maximize your resources on more bespoke or proprietary custom learning, you can save certainly a lot of money there. And then save time with instructor-led training as well. Hosting in-person training means paying for instructors, booking venues, printing materials, covering travel and accommodations, or even catering, lunch. Say you're rolling out a compliance training for 500 employees across multiple locations. The travel and logistics alone, we know would be quite expensive. So what's nice is with the content library, your team can utilize that and deliver that and let learners consume that training on their own time where they are. And they make it easy to scale training without massive cost increase as well. So whether you're training 50 people or 5,000, the cost increase is proportional instead of exponential. So it really helps. You'll have to pay for additional licenses, of course, but it's much more proportional. And if your team is growing and you're needing to add all the time, the scalability is invaluable for growing organizations. And as mentioned, they free up time. They let you focus on, the priorities that matter most. So if you need to focus more on strategic training strategies or maybe engaging your learners one-on-one, things that may drive more real outcomes instead of reinventing the wheel every time you need new training. Super helpful to leverage those. So while the benefits of content libraries are clear, it's just as important to consider the potential limitations before fully committing. We know that every organization is unique, and so the key is really ensuring that the library that you choose aligns with your specific needs. And so I wanted to highlight some important considerations when evaluating different libraries. First and foremost, we need to think about the pricing models and the long-term costs. Different libraries have different cost structures, as we've covered, but what may work for one organization may not work for another. So I may have covered this, I think, but for instance, seasonal hiring patterns, a helpful consideration. Customized packages may be more appropriate for something like that. But on the other hand, if your headcount is more relatively stable throughout the year, a flat rate subscription for a set number of learners may be a better option. Or for smaller teams with more highly specialized needs, a la carte pricing or per course pricing may be more appropriate for you. Next, consider the quiz and assessment capabilities of the library. If your goal is to measure retention or ensure employees pass compliance courses, you'll want to make sure that the library supports quizzes and assessments. When it comes to compliance courses, most libraries do have quizzes at the end of their compliance courses, but definitely want to make sure that rings true throughout your evaluations. And then another factor is customization limitations. So pre-built content is convenient, but it's important to ask whether it aligns with your organization's specific goals. So for example, you may find a course on professionalism within the library, but what professionalism means within your organization may not align with what you find in a library. So in which case, a do-it-yourself or outsourcing that content may be more appropriate. And that goes for quality as well. Some of the training may not require high level or really detailed or sophisticated training, while others, depending on your goals, may require exceptional quality and just highly effective training to make sure that it meets your company's standards and expectations and objectives. And lastly, think about language and localization. So if you have multiple language requirements, it's critical that the library supports those specific languages, of course. And compliance regulations can also often differ from region to region. So it's important that localization needs are met as well. So for example, anti-harassment in California is significantly different than it is in Texas, as it is in Florida. And so considering those things is important as well. And so by carefully weighing these factors, you can ensure that you're getting the most appropriate solutions for your specific needs. Another key consideration is how updates are managed. And this isn't from a course content perspective, but more from an enrollment perspective. For example, if a provider updates a course, how do these updates get implemented within your ecosystem? And this may depend largely on your LMS. If you have an API integration between your LMS and the library, for example, updates can often be applied automatically without disruption. Without integration, however, updates may require you to recycle the old courses, upload the new courses, and then re-enroll everyone who hasn't started the previous course already. And then what happens if a course is updated while someone is in the middle of it? Will you allow that learner to complete the previous course to maintain that training requirement? Or do they need to take the most up-to-date content? In which case you'll have to unenroll them and then re-enroll them in the new course. So this isn't ideal because if they're already halfway through the course, they'll have to start over. But if it is critical that that learner has the most up-to-date training, that's something to consider, and you may have to manage that re-enrollment. And then if your organization is heavy on compliance or certification requirements, you'll likely need to ensure that records show which version of each course a learner completed. So some LMSs handle this automatically, while others you may need to version yourself through naming conventions. And so, yeah, this will just ensure that whoever you need the reporting for, maybe auditors, know exactly which version of the course that specific learners took. So content libraries, they may not always cover every need or fit perfectly into your strategy. And so, a strategic approach really comes in handy, and, one that blends the flexibility of the libraries and other tailored solutions to create the most relevant and effective training program. Coming in with this strategy is certainly very helpful. So, while their libraries are very versatile, they may not cover every single training need, of course. And so if you do have proprietary process or a highly specific internal policy, you're going to need likely custom training to address it. But the key is really striking a balance between the library and using the library kind of as a strong foundation, but then supplementing it with courses tailored to your organization's unique needs. So this way you're not having to start from scratch, but you're also not, relying or settling on generic solutions overall. And not all libraries are created equal. So it's important to ask the right questions up front. How do they update their content? Do they allow to review sample courses before committing? What types of learning formats do they offer? How flexible is their pricing model? And again, if you work with an LMS provider, such as Neovation that partners with these vendors, they can be very helpful in providing agnostic and unbiased feedback and insights to be able to, help find you the best solution for your needs. And your organization your employees have a wealth of knowledge and experience that can be leveraged as well. So for example, pairing a pre-built leadership course with a follow-up discussion or a webinar led by a senior manager to help close the gaps and or connect the packaged content to your organization's specific needs and culture could be a great way to kind of to leverage that content and leverage your team's expertise as well. And then think of your content library as the building blocks for a more tailored training program. By collecting feedback from learners and monitoring their progress, you can identify areas where custom content might make the biggest impact. So if you're consistently, getting requests for deeper dives into specific topics, that's a signal that that's what folks are interested and engaged in, and could really help kind of bolster that offering. And so by combining these strategies, it really helps overcome the limitations of the content library. And the goal is really to just make it, as scalable and deeply relevant as possible. And then from there, it's important to approach the implementation strategically as well. So what are you trying to achieve? Are we trying to, if the priority is reducing health and safety incidents, focus on selecting courses that address those specific risks. If your goal is enhancing leadership skills within your organization, curate content that supports management development. So tying the library to the broader objectives, of course, makes sure that training is more purposeful and impactful. And then over time, industries that change, learners' needs evolve. And so it's crucial to periodically review your library and identify outdated or underused content by refreshing this content and make sure that everything remains relevant and ensures your learners are always getting, the most useful content related to their needs. And your employees are the ones interacting with the content. And so their input is invaluable. So by regularly checking in with them, identifying which courses are working, which ones aren't, trying to address any gaps and acting on this feedback will really help improve the overall program and engagement as well. And then instead of using standalone courses, as we've touched on, embed them with structured learning plans for career development tracks. And even with the best library, the results won't be there if nobody doesn't know about it. So of course, there's mandatory training folks are going to know about. But if there are additional courses and elective courses that you're hoping to present, it's important that folks are made aware of the range of courses and content available to them. So using things like emails or LMS announcements or internal campaigns, reminders, things like that. The more accessible and visible the library is, the more likely your team will take advantage of it. So really about building a strategy that not only works for today, but also can grow as your organization evolves. And the libraries themselves are evolving as well. This is what we are typically seeing right now. We know artificial intelligence is becoming a game changer within the space. So, imagine a system that analyzes a learner's progress, preferences, and engagement to recommend the most relevant courses or content. So seeing that certainly and providing learners exactly what they need when they need it. And with attention spans getting shorter and workdays getting busier, micro-learning has been on the rise for a while, and we're still seeing that push today. So whether that's a 5-minute refresher on a compliance course or a quick how-to on a software tool, this bite-sized content is often much easier to fit into busy schedules, and oftentimes just more memorable, easier to recall. And then virtual and augmented experiences, we're seeing a big push in this, and less quickly, again, because of the specialized technology that's required. We're definitely seeing this slowly build as a trend, and can be highly valuable, especially for folks in like technical or high stakes roles. And data has always been important, but even deeper insights are becoming central to modern e-learning. So not just being able to see who completed the course, what their progress is, but the analytics that truly, report on how learners are engaging with content in a deep way and where they may need more support. And there's also finally a growing trend toward user-generated content and social learning. So this is more on the LMS side, but allowing learners to consume content and then discuss with their teams. You can upvote on content, you can rate and review, being able to have discussions around specific learning plans or courses, really fostering that collaboration and social learning. We're seeing a big trend in as well. So it's all about making folks smarter, more efficient, and more connected. So at this point, you may be interested in how you can leverage this and integrate it into your own training program. And that's where we come in. So we can certainly help. We have partnerships with some of the leading course libraries. So, having access to them, we get a lot of collateral. We get, one-on-one training, webinars, things like that. So we have a good understanding of the libraries, can certainly help lead curation and tailor your training to what you need. So we work directly with them as well and can leverage them for additional support, specialized bundles, things like that. So whether you're looking for compliance training, whether you're looking for soft skills, whether you're looking for all of it, we can certainly help tailor that for you. And then we can oftentimes we get great pricing and can leverage different offers as well. So sometimes there's promotions going on that we're always made aware of. But again, also we have great relationships. So we want to understand your needs as best as we can, your budget requirements, and we can work directly with partners and with you to make sure that you're getting the appropriate solution for what you need. And then once you've chosen the right content provider, the right courses, we can support that integration. So we can support with the upload and the implementation. If you're using our LMS, we can certainly help you implement that learning system as well. But we have a special projects team as well. So if you need help integrating a library with another tool, things like that, we can certainly support in many different ways. And then speaking of support, you'll get ongoing support from our team. We have amazing support. I think everyone says that, but we certainly do. And so we're always going to be here to answer your questions, provide technical assistance, and just make sure that you're equipped and optimized to be delivering the best training strategy and content to your learners. So by partnering with us, you kind of get a full solution e-learning provider from A to Z, and we're certainly here to help. So in closing, it's clear that e-learning content libraries play a strategic role in learning and development today. And so it's just very interesting to be able to leverage the advantages in so many different ways to be able to provide the appropriate solutions for different folks. And so really look forward to hopefully having some ongoing conversations with folks, and we'll jump over to Q&A now, but just wanted to thank everyone again for your time, and yeah, please let me know if you have any questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Brayden. I think that we're all ready to write the compliance exam on the foundations of content libraries. That was a really great overview. I love how you presented both the pluses and the challenges for making those decisions, and how it fits into a blended training strategy with custom developed courses, either internally or through a provider like Neovation, plus, using content libraries as the backbone to establish baselines of training. I haven't seen any questions in the chat, but one question I have is, there are different types of e-learning providers. There are people that are content or courses aggregators, and there are people that have their own team of course creators. Can you talk about the difference? And I know that you have some examples on your, ready to pop up. So some of the e-learning partners are course aggregators, and others have their own base. Can you talk about those two?
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Susan. Yeah, so essentially, a course aggregator would have significantly more learning titles in general. So these folks go out and work with other e-learning providers and move those providers into their ecosystem so they can provide many different topics and courses and delivery formats and things like that. So for example, and I have my nav bar that is in the way.
Got to love the Zoom nav bar that just gets in the way of everything. It's a hazard.
Teams has updated it. You can move it on Teams, which is a game changer, but it's in the way right now. So for example, two course aggregators that we work with are Biz Library and Go One. And so you can see here the scope of content in general. And these are your high level topics, and then you can drill in and go into more subtopics like I was talking about throughout the presentation. And so this is what we see as kind of the main difference between the aggregators is the sheer size and scope of content available, more multilingual, and different delivery methods, and more, yeah, more topics. But that would be one example. And then we also have Go One, which many of you may have heard of in the past. These are one of the largest providers in the world, and they're also a content aggregator. So just giving you an idea of the different look and feel of the dashboards, if you will. And so both provide different ways to be able to filter down on content. It's hard to take 50,000 courses and determine which ones are going to be appropriate for you. So we can do different languages, different dialects, even different regions. And so the aggregators will offer more and allow you to kind of filter down and a little more robust in nature. Whereas we have another excellent partner called Centrio as well, which is less robust in terms of the total the course count, but more targeted toward compliance. So they have an excellent offering on things like anti-harassment, DEI. They got healthcare specific content and learning tracks. And so these folks would be more economical and more flexible in terms of the pricing model, but less content. And whereas the other two would be a little more robust. And they kind of go in a good, better, best on how we do it in terms of price and availability. And so we have something for everyone. We have providers that can meet your need in terms of content and budget as well.
Great. Thanks, Brayden. And I know that we're always evaluating new content library offerings that approach us to carry their courses. So we're always updating our own offering, and we're happy to also consult on course libraries that you might find to help you evaluate them to see if they would be a good fit for you. We are coming up on the end of our time together, so I just wanted to thank everybody for attending. I don't see any questions in the chat. Brayden, you did such a great job that you answered all the questions. Good anticipation there. So just a reminder that at the end of the webinar, once I close this down, you're going to get a survey popping up on your screen. Please take the few seconds it takes to answer those 3 questions. It will help us programming our future events. So thank you all for attending. And Brayden, thank you for all the work you put into this presentation. And we will be sending out the recording probably in a day or two. So watch for that. And thank you again.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Hope everyone has an excellent day.